Problem solving, also known as word problems. Word problems are fun. Always remember that. And so, here we go. This first example is just to give you an idea of how to translate word problems into symbolic form, mathematical equations. We're not going to solve these. We're just going to set them up. So here we go. Every time we see the phrase a number, we're going to use X to represent that. So it says 4 times a number, you want to stop right there. That's 4 times the number we're going to say is X. Is means equals 20. That's our equation, 4x equals 20. Sum means to add number. Yields the same as equals. So when it says the sum of a number and sum of a number and negative 5, that's the same as saying x plus negative 5 equals 32. I use parentheses to separate the plus and the minus. Only reason why I do that. Watch out for this one. 15 subtracted from a number. Now it's really easy to write down 15 minus x, but we're taking the 15 away from the number. So we need to write it last. So it'll be x minus 15. Amounts to the same as equals, and then negative 23. So watch out for that one. Subtracted from means the 15's been taken away from the x. 5 times the difference of a number and 7 is equal to negative 8. Difference does mean subtract. The number once again, we don't know, so we're going to call it x. And 5 times. So when you write this down, if you write down 5 times, I'm having a little trouble with my tuning. So when it says 5 times the difference, you don't want to write down 5 times a minus, because that doesn't make any sense. Anytime you have side-by-side operations, parentheses, because we're going to find the difference of a number and 7. Difference does mean subtract. We're subtracting x and 7 is equal to negative 8. That's our equation. 5 parentheses x minus 7 equals negative 8. Now this last one we're going to look at on this just translation part. The quotient of triple a number and 5 gives 1. Quotient means to divide. Triple a number is 3 times x. Gives is equal. So when it says quotient, we're going to divide. I like to use the fraction bar. Triple a number is 3x. That goes on top. The number, or we already got that for x, and 5, so that's going to be on the bottom, equals, or gives, 1. So you're going to take these slowly so you can get the equation. Now this last one on this page, we're actually going to solve it out completely. First we're going to translate it and then we're going to solve it. Here we go. The sum of a number and 2, stop right there. We're going to use x for the number. Sum means add, so that means we're going to take x plus 2 equals 6 added to 3 times the number. We're using x for the number. 3 times the number is 3x. That's our equation we're going to solve. And so let's continue on. I always start the x's first, start the smallest one, x. 1x is less than 3x, so I'm going to start with the x. It's a positive x, so we're going to subtract the x. First do the one side, do the other. Leaves a 2 over here, and then 3x minus x, or minus 1x, is 2x. To isolate the x term, we're going to eliminate the 6 by subtracting, because 6 minus 6 is 0, and it leaves the 2x. 2 minus 6 is negative 4. We're going to isolate the x now by eliminating the 2 in front that's been multiplied by dividing. And we end up with x equals negative 2. So I call this a word problem because of the words associated with the problem. Now these next two examples are more like real word problems. And I'll give you some strategies on how to do these. This first one involves distance from Cincinnati to Denver. Is 71 miles less than the distance from Denver to San Francisco. The total of these two distances is 23.99. Find the distance from Denver to San Francisco. It's really easy to get lost in these type of problems. So I'm actually going to draw a picture using a map in my mind as a reference. We're looking at Cincinnati, Denver, and San Francisco. I'm going to use Cincinnati, Denver, San Francisco. Cincinnati's east, Denver's in the middle, San Francisco's west. Now it says it's from Cincinnati to Denver, that's this, is 71 miles less than from Denver to San Francisco. Stop right there. I know absolutely nothing about the distance from Denver to San Francisco. I'm going to start there. The one I know least about is what I'll start with. So from Denver to San Francisco, I know nothing, so we're going to call that distance x. Now I'm going to read this first part again. Distance from Cincinnati to Denver is 71 miles less than x. So how would you write 71 less than x? It's x minus 71. We're taking 71 away from the x. The two distances together, or the distance from San Francisco to Cincinnati, is 2,399 miles. So what I'm thinking is, if I take that distance and add to that distance, the grand total is going to be that distance, which is 2399. That's my equation. X is that distance. X minus 71 is that distance. When I add those together, the grand total is 2,399 miles. That's my equation. Notice the two x's. This x represents this distance. This x, I need to include it for this one because it's 71 less than that x. So it's a totally different distance. To solve, you might want to think of those as being 1x's. 1x plus 1x is 2x. Minus 71 equals 2,399. I'm going to isolate the x term by adding 71. Need some paper. And we're going to get 2x equals 2,470. Check my math right quickly. We're going to solve for x by dividing by 2. And we're going to get x equals 1,235. Check my math once again. Okay. Now we got to go back up here and see what we're trying to find. It says find the distance from Denver to San Francisco. From Denver to San Francisco we said was x. When we solved our equation, we found x. That's our answer. That's the distance from Denver to San Francisco. Now if it asks for the distance from Denver to Cincinnati, we would have taken our x, 1,235, and subtracted 71 from it. But make sure I had to, when you go back, that's why I had to go back up here, to make sure that I was answering the correct question. So that's why these little diagrams, these little figures can be really helpful. They can solve a lot of problems for you. Now in this next example, watch how I do this one. It says a woman's estate is divided between her husband and her son. The question is asking how much will each receive. When I do a problem like this, I really start with the general problem. Husband plus son, the two total amounts will equal 57,000. That's what I'll begin with. That's how I look at it. Gives me something to go by. It says it's to be divided between her husband and her husband and son. Her husband receives twice as much as her son. I know something about the husband. I know nothing about the son. So we're going to let the son's amount be x. So when we read this, it now says the husband receives twice as much as x. So what's twice x? Well, that's 2x. So now when we add those two, the grand total is going to be $57,000. That's our equation. And what is 2x plus x, or 2x plus 1x? 3x. Bring down 57,000. We're going to solve for x by eliminating 3 by dividing by 3. And we end up with x equals 19,000. Now the question is how much will each receive? Since x represents the son, this 19,000 is how much the son receives. To find how much the husband receives, he receives twice x. If we take 2x, that's 2 times 19,000, which is 38,000, and that's the husband's amount. So that just gives you an idea of how to do some more problems that are similar to these.